All right, so for today's podcast, we are talking to two of our principals, Marissa Zimmer, who is the principal at Oakhill School, which is a kindergarten through sixth grade school, Joe Schlosser, who is principal at Caze Elementary School, which is a kindergarten through fifth grade school. So we have been talking about GAIN on some earlier podcasts, and especially talking about whole child instruction and social emotional learning and all those things that we're really working on. And I know with both of your schools, that is something truly that is a focus and that you're seeing success with. And so we just want to hear a little more about that. So I guess, Marissa, let's just start with you.
Sure.
So at Oakhill, when I talk about social emotional learning, what are we thinking about? What are we seeing?
So in most of our classrooms, you would see group plans being in place. Our teachers have worked with our kids to create those, what it looks like in their classroom. What does it look like when we're following those expectations in our classroom? So you would see pictures of kids doing those things and teachers referring to those group plans. You might see kids sitting in a circle and talking about answering a question for that day that the teacher has posed for them, just to build that community within the classroom. A lot of times you hear students talking about even their own emotions and how they're feeling in the moment, especially if it's a high stress load situation. And we just have recognized the importance of teaching kids these social emotional skills. They're just as important as the academic skills and help kids with their academics as well.
Okay. Joe, what about you at Caze?
Yeah, some of the same things that Marissa mentioned. We want kids to feel like school is their safe place, right? And them to be able to express their emotions and to know how they're feeling in the moment so that that learning can take place. It's the foundation of everything that we do at Caze and probably any of the elementaries around the EVSC. Students need to practice these skills. So we talked about community circles, giving students an opportunity to put themselves in a position that requires them to demonstrate self-regulation, maybe through a game or something like that for the younger grades. Perhaps maybe have competition for the older students, doing something where there's a winner and loser, and it's okay to be the winner and the loser. And what do we do in those situations when we feel ourselves becoming stressful? We're not going to know how to react unless we're put in those positions and we practice that. So.
Yeah, go ahead. I had a follow-up question, but
you brought up self-regulation, and I think that is our ultimate goal, that we want to teach our kids how to self-regulate in the moment when there is maybe a stressful situation. Because even as adults, I think we sometimes struggle with that. So if we can teach our kids now how to manage their emotions and what to do when they feel like they need refueling, and we've really shifted our focus to those refueling breaks and having teachers building in those times when maybe they just need a snack or maybe they need to take a walk. And as adults, we naturally do that for ourselves, but to teach the kids to recognize that in themselves as well.
So you just said refueling, and then you went on to say snacks. But what do you mean if a student needs refueled? Both of you maybe comment on that. What are you thinking when you say that?
Sure. So Susan Phelps teaches us a lot about our own stress load, and sometimes it's like we need to put on the brakes a little bit or we need to push on the gas pedal. So maybe we're feeling tired and maybe we just need to get up and take a walk. That might be a refueling break for a student. The district has also provided us with some 5 and 45 exercises. So for every 45 minutes of instruction, a child might need a 5-minute break where they're doing some cross-body motions and movements to try to get their brain active, but also refuel their bodies too. Because when kids get in that stress cycle, we want to try to get them to recover as quickly as possible. So it might look like a walk. It might look like I just need a snack at this time, or I need a drink of water, or I need to use the restroom. Lots of different options just when they recognize that their body needs a little more or a little less to get them back to that calm state.
I think it's important that we remember to take those short breaks like that. It's, we're at school to learn, and we want to maximize the amount of minutes that we have with kids. And, if a kid is starting to feel fidgety, if they're feeling maybe starting to tune out, let's take a break. Let's get those wiggles out, especially for the younger ones, maybe some sort of a music or dance or movement, and then bring them back. We're gonna have a better 15-minute small group reading session now than we would without that break.
So I want to ask you both this, as I'm hearing you talk about refueling and breaks, and you're both alluding to then getting ready for learning again or to maximize your learning. If I'm listening to this podcast and I don't know much about social emotional learning, what would you say if my interpretation is, wait, you mean this is instead of academics, it takes the place of how do you marry those two concepts?
Sure. So we have built in some gain time in our schedule. For us at Oakhill, it's broken up where a little bit in the morning and a little bit in the afternoon. In the morning, they typically do their community circle, community building questions, and then in the afternoon, they teach their lesson. So most recently, the lesson was about bullying. So that was where there was a module developed, and they taught the students about bullying. It may also just be about their brain and what the different parts of their brain do. So we do feel like while it does take a little bit of time away from the academics, we feel like, as Joe mentioned, it does help them improve their academics and helps them to be more focused and ready. And maybe we'll have a more productive small group or more productive math period because we took this time to refuel and refocus.
Right. That's the goal. That goal is for when we have time with our kids in the academic setting, for us to, really focus, teaching the kids to focus on the task at hand. How many of us as adults tend to wander or we start to tune out after so long? Our kids are the same.
And I assume, Joe, when you say we have to teach our kids, what I hear you saying is you're making the assumption not every kid, not every student just is going to understand this on their own. You're saying what is the benefit is teachers are intentionally teaching these strategies and concepts to kids.
Sure, yeah. We're teaching the vocabulary. We're practicing it, and we're modeling it for them so that they can see and they can feel themselves getting online and able to learn it the best way that they can.
Both of you mentioned community circle times. So if I'm not familiar with that concept, what are you talking about when you say community circle?
I mean, it's all about building relationships with one another, peer-to-peer with their teacher, and having trust with one another. And so some of our teachers will hold their morning community circle first thing in the morning. Some of them do it when they come back from a related art. But that time is there for them to maybe the teacher might pose a question, and the kids might take turns answering it, or they might respond to one another. Again, building trust and understanding that we're all in this together and helping each other out. We talked a little bit about, does this take time away from academics? Well, they go hand in hand. We do a lot of group work together in math, in reading, and having those social emotional skills, how to work in a group. We're learning those in these community circles.
Yes, so you mentioned the question. A lot of times our teachers will just ask a question. It might be, what's your favorite food to eat for dinner? And the kids will go around the circle. Some of them have a talking stick or some kind of item that they pass around the circle just to give everyone a chance to share. And you mentioned that keyword relationships, so they can build those relationships with each other. Maybe think, oh, I like what you like too. And maybe we're not friends, but I can build upon that. And we have something in common when maybe I didn't realize that we had something in common because we don't know each other that well. So they have that time every day to just help them get to know each other and build relationships within the classroom.
So it sounds to me like both of you are saying any minute we're spending investing in this almost is like an investment because it's going to translate into better academic opportunities because there's more comfort in the room, there's more trust, there's more a sense that they can be calm and ready to learn. I mean, is that an accurate way to interpret this?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I think that's spot on.
And more willing to take risks with their learning, too, that maybe...
What do you mean when you say that?
Sure. So I realize that my classroom is a safe place to learn, so I will volunteer to raise my hand, even if maybe I'm unsure, because I know that my classmates aren't going to make fun of me or aren't going to laugh because I know that I've built this relationship with them and with my teacher, and I feel safe to respond in that way.
How do you think this looks, and maybe it doesn't, differently between the younger students and the older students? So if I'm a parent, can I expect some of the same things for kindergarten and first grade as for third or fourth or fifth grade? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that they are similar. It's definitely something that we hope that the younger kids, as they're going through the mini lessons in the SEL curriculum now, that they carry that on to third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade and beyond. Something we do at Caze, very intentional, is we have morning meetings with our third, fourth, and fifth graders. And
what does that look like?
It's just a time for us to come together as a community, as a school community, and to celebrate student successes. Let's.
So you don't mean just in an individual classroom. You mean all
We
of
get
your
together in the
fourth and
gym,
fifth graders.
and
Okay.
the teachers are there. I'm in there along with some of our support staff, and we acknowledge the accomplishments kids are making in the classroom. So that's one thing. We want to recognize the good work that they're doing. We want them to be proud of the work that they're doing. And second, it's a good opportunity for us to give reminders of those school-wide expectations. We talked about the group plan. We also have a school plan as well, and what that looks like. And we talk about we have to have rules and expectations that help our school run efficiently.
Sure.
So we keep those in front of them as well. And then last, we have fun together, just some sort of team building activity that we get the kids out. We do maybe some quick, maybe a tug of war game with the fourth grade versus the fifth grade. Or this morning we had a meeting and the kids did a dance that they learned in music class. Just having fun. And one thing that we do intentionally is we include our teachers in that, so that they see that their teachers are out there in this with them.
So somewhat similar at Oakhill, we do a school-wide morning meeting just on Friday mornings, and the students lead it, and then we recognize, it's called Pause for Applause for us, and recognize those students' accomplishments and following the 7 habits for us with our Leader in Me program. But in terms of what that SEL looks like in the younger grades, versus the upper grades, kindergarten and first grade started this work last year. So for them, it's a little bit more comfortable for the teachers to use that language. They're a little bit more familiar with it. It's not their first time teaching these lessons, whereas our upper grades, this is the first time for them to teach these lessons. So the language is newer for them, but I think even our kindergarten and first grades are still learning more as they go, and more modules have been added for them. I think they just have that more experience from last year too. But all of our classrooms now have added self-regulation stations within their classrooms to give our kids a break, as we mentioned with refueling earlier, where they have just that space in their classroom, again, a safe place for them where if they are feeling a little overwhelmed or they need a break to just refocus themselves, they can go to a different little spot in their classroom and just kind of breathe and take a minute and then rejoin the class.
So you have those throughout the building, small areas within classrooms. And then, Joe, I know you have a self-regulation room. Is that correct?
We do, yes. So we have a social emotional learning specialist at Caze, and one of the roles there is to do those self-reg breaks for kids that we're trying to be proactive. So we've got some kiddos that they need a break more frequently than others. And so
every child's unique.
Yeah,
Everyone learns or comes in at the same.
So we've got a handful of kids that we schedule those, and they know that at this time they're going to have a short break, and they're going to go to the self-reg room, and they'll go through some stations. Maybe it'll be a time where they just need a few minutes to themselves. There's a few options in there for them. Maybe something that's textual that they can feel, maybe some beads or we've got a water balloon type of thing that they can hold on to. All kids respond differently, so they're given choice there. And then oftentimes after that, they can head back to class. Sometimes they would like some time with the teacher to talk about how they're feeling and what they need in order to get themselves back into a place where they're ready to go back to classroom and learn.
So it sounds like it's really, too, a part of this is students actually understanding where they're at social, emotionally.
Sure.
Whether or not they're ready to learn, if they're not, how to get through that. I mean, it does sound like a part of this is kids kind of developing this skill on their own as teachers are helping them with it.
Yeah, and we talked about what is the difference between the younger grades and the older grades is we're hoping that the students start to take some responsibility for their actions and for getting themselves back to a place where they can get calm. A lot of times they're going to need somebody to be that calm for them. Sure. And so our goal is for them to learn how to do it on their own.
And Marissa, if I'm an Oakhill parent and I'm hearing this and I'm thinking this sounds really interesting, what kind of things might I be hearing my kids talk about when they come home that would sound like it's related to your work with SEL?
So soon, if they haven't already, there are parent letters that are part of our SEL modules. So teachers are starting to send those home. We've recently discovered that was a resource on those SEL lessons. But they may be talking about how they can breathe. If they're feeling upset, a lot of our teachers are using breathing skills as to help them calm. I know myself as an adult, if I'm feeling nervous or something, I'll just take some time to breathe. So we're teaching our kids that. Some of the grade levels have learned about their amygdala and their hippocampus and what those different parts of the brain control for their bodies. So that may be some language. Some of them are learning about the zones of regulation. So they may say, I'm feeling in the red zone right now. I need a break.
And what does that mean? If like zones of regulation, elaborate on that for a second.
So there are 4 different zones: green, yellow, red, and blue. Each one reflects different types of emotions, and I don't want to misspeak on which one is which at this moment.
Sure.
But red is I'm definitely needing a break.
It's kind of an awareness of where you're at.
Yes.
An adult for that matter, but
right.
In your case, you're talking about children.
Sure, but I know that I want to be in the green zone, and then if I'm speaking it right, Joe.
No, you're
me.
right.
Okay, yeah.
You're doing great.
And oftentimes, and I know that you guys do the same thing, is we'll have kids identify where they think that they feel. Where are they on in this zone? Which zone are we in? And then what can we do to bring us back down to green?
Mm-hmm. So we just want, and you mentioned the co-regulating that adults have to do. It's sometimes our kids just aren't ready to regulate themselves, and so we do have to share our calm with our kids. Whenever we're noticing that they're not, we need to remain even more calm to help them get to that point. If they're in the red zone, we want to get them back to green. We have to be over green ourselves.
Sounds like really what both of you are saying as part of our work with Whole Child and with SEL is we can't make the assumption that every student is always ready to learn at every second of the day. It's like we need to intervene and really create that environment so that we can maximize that learning with our assistance to take them through that. Is that a fair way of summarizing it?
Sure. I think I even have to do that more now at home, or recognize my need to do that even with my own kids at home.
Sure.
Just when they're having trouble or they're struggling or what looks like a fit potentially, we recognize that we need to share our calm at home too, and getting more upset doesn't fix the situation. So it has been interesting just from a parent perspective too, for myself to kind of learn more and apply it to my own kids at home too.
Sure. Joe, as you think about this, as we kind of conclude our conversation today, kind of fast forward, because I know we're working through this. Where do you hope this is at Caze in another year, in 2 more years?
Well, I don't know that the work is ever going to be over.
Sure.
We're going to have a need for this all the time. My hope is that students, as they become familiar with the vocabulary that we're learning and some of the skills that we're teaching, that it becomes commonplace for them, that then when maybe they get a cue word for, what do we need to do to bring you back out of the red, or that all the kids know what that means and what they need to do to get themselves back online and ready to learn. Ultimately, I would love to see our older kids doing some of this for our younger ones. I know that's out there. We're not there yet.
Sure.
But I think it would be awesome for our older kids to mentor the younger ones with some of this work.
Well, and I assume you're thinking every year that goes by, there's more awareness, more familiarity with it, so that not only are the students more comfortable with it, but then in turn, maybe they can do those type of activities.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Marissa, what about you as you look forward at Oakhill? What would you like to see how this unfolds?
I think the same thing. I think the longer that we are teaching it, the more it moves its way up, where our younger kids maybe are going to be learning it now, but as our older kids grow, the language is the same. The language is common. They recognize what they need. They may recognize what their peer needs. If my friend is upset, maybe I need to help them, kind of what you're talking about with the upper grade kids with the lower kids. And just, I think we're preparing kids for college and career success, but we also need to prepare them in this social way as well, because, they can function the best. They can be the best employee, but if they can't get along well with others, they may not last long as that employee. So we want to give them these skills as well to help them be successful when they leave us too.
I mean, it's just fascinating hearing both of you talk from your perspectives as principals. It's hard to really see a downside of this. I mean, I can't really think of anything, because in the end, you're not only helping the student, I mean, you're directly helping academics by going through this, helping to make them feel better about themselves, their environment. I don't see a downside.
No, I don't either.
It's powerful, and we talked a little bit about what do we want it to look like, and I think one of our next steps at Caze is how do we really integrate some of these lessons, these SEL mini lessons, into our curriculum, so that it's not, we have a SEL lesson and now we have a social studies lesson, but how could we do it together? We'll get there, but it takes time, and the adults are learning right along with the students.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Sure. Well, thank you to both of you, Joe Schlosser from Caze and Marissa Zimmer from Oakhill. Really exciting things going on, and appreciate you coming in and talking to us about how this is unfolding in your schools. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.